Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Democrats on Capitol Hill are already working hard to block President Trump's potential nominee for the Supreme Court. And it's no surprise the battle lines are forming around an issue that's core to both sides, the right to life.
While pro-lifers see an opportunity to overturn Roe v. Wade, abortion supporters are using the issue to whip up opposition. However, as Charlene Aaron explains, they have little power to stop the nomination.
For conservatives who had Supreme Court vacancies in mind when they voted for President Donald Trump, Justice Anthony Kennedy's retirement is a dream come true. Now they see a path to overturning Roe v. Wade, the case that made abortion legal.
Kennedy's retirement is a momentous event for the pro-life movement.
But abortion is also the issue that Democrats will use to mobilize their base and oppose a Trump nominee.
This is a battle line that has been drawn that literally will put women's lives at risk, that undermines our civil rights, our human rights.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell vows to start the confirmation process as soon as the president announces his pick and schedule a vote before the midterm elections this fall. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is leading Democrats crying foul. They say McConnell should wait until after the elections when a new Senate is elected.
Because Republicans invoked the nuclear option when they were confirming Justice Gorsuch, they only need a simple majority of 51 votes to move to confirm whoever the president nominates. So really, the Democrats don't really have any cards left.
However, with abortion rights hanging in the balance, everyone's watching two Republican women.
On the Republican side, I would watch Senators Murkowski and Collins. They are two pro-choice women, so they might oppose a justice that they feel is pro-life. But keep in mind, those two did vote for Justice Neil Gorsuch.
Robertson says also watch out for Democrat Senators Manchin, Donnelly, and Heitkamp. They all voted to confirm Justice Gorsuch and are all seeking re-election in states Trump won in 2016. Catherine Glenn Foster with Americans United for Life says while she wants to see Roe fall, the goal should be nominating a judge whose duty is to the Constitution, not precedent.
The fact that we're having this conversation about a nominee opposing Roe v. Wade or favoring Roe v. Wade, it shows that we're having the wrong conversation. It means that the process is becoming political as we're trying to confirm justices, instead of looking to justices who do view their highest calling as being to the U.S. Constitution.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Well, David Brody is CBN's chief political correspondent, and he joins us now from Washington. David, it looks like we're going to have a battle royale on this, and then both parties are going to have to pull out all the stops. What are you hearing?
Yeah, it's a battle, and quite frankly, that battle's already taking place. We know the President of the United States met with Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, two moderate pro-choice senators, as we heard Abby speak about in that piece. And so already some of that negotiation is on because, look, this is crucial right here. You see them up there, Collins and Murkowski. They really hold a lot of the sway here, 51-49 in the Senate. They've got to get 50 votes, and I say 50 because Mike Pence would come in and break the tie, so they need 50. But if they lose Murkowski and Collins, then we have all sorts of math issues and Democrats come into play and all of that. So it'll be interesting to watch.
Well, what about John McCain in the final vote tally? He's battling for his life right now. What about him?
Well, there has been talk about the fact that maybe John McCain, there might be a chance that he would retire before the vote actually happens, most likely in the fall. I am told by a source close to McCain that chances of that is low, very low, actually. And so there's no sense that John McCain is going to retire anytime soon. Obviously, the idea is that if he would retire, he's probably not going to be able to make it to Washington, D.C. for the vote. So Republicans can't count on that vote. And, of course, Arizona has a Republican governor who would then appoint someone to that Senate seat. But it doesn't look like any of that is happening, Gordon.
Who do you think the top picks are? Everybody's sort of I guess second-guessing the president on this one. Who do you think is the top ones in the running for the nomination?
Well, I've talked to multiple sources of mine, and three names keep coming up. Brett Kavanaugh, also Thomas Hardiman, and Amy Coney Coney Barrett. Now, Amy Coney Barrett's interesting because many of my sources, evangelical in nature, love her. They believe that she is the one that if they had their kind of dream pick, that she would be the one. She's a mother of 7, devout Catholic, Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. She's come under fire before, Gordon, for her religious views. Dianne Feinstein actually grilling her when she was becoming a Seventh Circuit federal judge about how she said, this is Feinstein's quote, about how the dogma lives loudly within you, is what she said to Amy Coney Barrett, So talking specifically about the fact that Barrett has been very outspoken in her Catholic views and God and all of that. So that could be a flashpoint for sure. It has already been a flashpoint. Having said that, very important to point out here, Gordon, that in Barrett's confirmation hearing, when it came to the yeas and nays, 2 Democrats, Joe Manchin, Joe Donnelly, both voted for Barrett. So if you look at it that way, and if what the White House is thinking here and trying to game it out a little bit, that, look, they've already voted for her to be a federal appeals court judge. I understand the Supreme Court may be a bit different, so to speak. But, look, they are on record of voting for her. So that may be cover if Murkowski and Collins, the Republicans, go the other way. Because, look, if Murkowski and Collins go the other way, they're going to need a Democrat or 2 to get this thing through.
Is the age of the nominee a factor here? I mean, one of the things going for Judge Barrett is she's still in her 40s. So you could have an influence on the court for 4 decades. Is that an issue?
It's a big issue. As a matter of fact, in private meetings that I've actually been involved with the president and some of those White House senior aides, they always talk about how age is a very good thing and younger the better. And you're right. Barrett's in her mid-40s, so that's important. She's also obviously a woman. And when you're a woman, and if Roe v. Wade, we've heard this talk about Roe v. Wade possibly either being overturned or scaled back. Look, you've got 3 Supreme Court justices, females, on the liberal side. Donald Trump's a big fan of optics, and to have a pro-life, though she wouldn't term herself pro-life in hearings for sure, but for someone that clearly is a devout Catholic and could come potentially on a Roe v. Wade hearing or ruling, excuse me, and she's a woman on that side of the ledger, on the conservative side of the ledger, that's a good thing for the White House. I will also tell you, a White House aide just telling me this morning that the president wants this done quickly. What a shock that Donald Trump wants to move quickly. But the White House is telling me that they are making this not only just priority number 1, but you will see a swiftness to all of this. And I would also point out, Gordon, very important here, a lot of people talk about the fight coming in the summer and the fall. The fight is really happening right now to define exactly who Donald Trump is going to pick. A lot of voices in his ear, a lot of prayer needed for this president regardless, but especially on this because he's getting a lot of different opinions. And remember, he's got to make the calculation. Are Murkowski and Collins going to have some sort of effect to make this pick a bit more moderate in nature because Trump knows that he has to get them on board, or at least Donnelly and Manchin, who are also moderate. So it'll be interesting to see how bold he goes. I'm thinking with Trump, he's probably going to go pretty bold.
Well, that's a pretty good guess, and that's a pretty good guess. He's going to try to make this happen very quickly, but it's also a pretty good guess. This is going to be the battle royale. I open with that. The Democrats are going to pull out all the stops. You're going to hear a lot of doomsday talk coming out of both parties.
Yeah, and just one quick last note. Why the midterms are, we know the midterm elections are so important, but let's remember, you've got Ruth Bader Ginsburg in her mid to upper 80s. I'm not quite sure how old she is exactly, but Stephen Breyer is obviously up there as well. If the Democrats win control of the Senate, you can forget a Ruth Bader Ginsburg or a Stephen Breyer retiring. They may want to retire, but if the Democrats control the Senate, they're going to hold up that potential Supreme Court nomination, just like the Republicans did with Merrick Garland when Merrick Garland was put up before the Republicans and the Democrats, and the Republicans, Mitch McConnell, said, no, I'm not going to put up Merrick Garland because Obama was a lame duck president. Well, Democrats would do the same thing. So this could be it. It could be just 2 Supreme Court rather than 3 picks, possibly, if Democrats control the Senate.
All right. Very important election, very important nomination. And David, thank you for the analysis. Keep Judge Barrett in mind. Here's someone, she's a Catholic charismatic. She goes to the People of Praise Church, and if she's the nomination, that would be absolutely incredible. She'll have 40 years on the bench, and that let's be in prayer. In other news, President Trump is celebrating the 6-month anniversary of his tax reform law as a crowning legislative achievement for Republicans and the country. But as Jennifer Wishon shows us, there's a little-known provision in that law that puts new taxes on churches and nonprofits.
The tax reform law was designed to lower taxes and make filing them simpler. But for thousands of churches and nonprofits, it's costing them millions just to provide parking spaces for their employees.
It's kind of unbelievable.
Believe it. The law treats employee parking as a fringe benefit, imposing a 21% income tax on each parking space a church or nonprofit provides. It's meant to create an equal playing field, putting nonprofits in line with for-profit corporations that also pay the tax. Dan Busby is president of the Evangelical Council for Financial Accountability. He says churches weren't expecting to get hit with, of all things, an income tax bill.
There are nearly 15 million employees that work in the United States for nonprofits, nearly 10% of the workforce. So that's 15 million parking places. And conservatively, it is going to cost the nonprofit community as a whole up to $1 billion.
That's a lot of money for ministries that rely on donations. So how much does a parking space cost? The IRS is still calculating it, and Busby predicts it will cost nonprofits even more money, as some will have to hire accountants to sort through the new requirement.
Really something special.
Last winter, as lawmakers touted tax savings and the ability to file on a postcard, no one mentioned the new tax on their local churches. Legislation to remove the tax is now before the House Ways and Means Committee.
We had the big the push for corporate tax rate reduction and the postcard, and in between were a jillion pieces in that legislation, just like this one, that impact you and I.
And millions of parking places.
And millions of parking places.
It's certainly not the policy many lawmakers want to be explaining as they gear up their campaigns for re-election. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, Stevens City, Virginia.
This is one of those you've got to be kidding me issues, and it just goes to show you got to really pay attention to legislation. Here's an example for you. Let's say you go to a small church, and that small church has, say, 5 staff members. And there's a parking lot. Parking lot's been there for that church since it was founded, since it was built. But because the church is providing, quote, free parking, close quote, to those 5 staff members, there are now 5 individual tax bills for each parking space. And it's going to require that church to hire an accountant to figure out how to file for it, because it's unrelated business income tax, and it's a taxable benefit for the employees. The provision was designed to even the playing field, if you will, between the nonprofit and for-profit sector. In the for-profit world, if you pay for your employees to park at the municipal garage, then you're out of pocket for that monthly fee, and that becomes a taxable benefit to the employees. And so they're just trying to say, well, we need to equal that out. But nobody thought that, well, you know, what if that church building has been there for 100 years and that parking space has been there for the same amount of time? You know, what does that mean? And, well, it means that they're going to have to pay a tax. So if you go to church, and I hope you do, make sure your church's voice is heard on this issue. The Evangelical Council for Financial Accountability, that's ECFA, has a petition you can sign online, and you can find the link to that website at our website on cbnnews.com. And please get your church, get your nonprofits to start signing this petition. Our voice needs to be heard. This thing needs to be repealed this tax year so a tax bill isn't due by all the nonprofits in the country for providing free parking. It is, again, you've got to be kidding me provision, and we need to get it reversed. There's a current bill going through Congress. ECFA is lobbying for that to pass. The more people sign the petition, the more Congress and the Senate are going to pay attention. So, again, go to cbnnews.com. We'll give you a link to the ECFA website. Please make your voice heard on this. This is a big deal. This is going to cost nonprofits a lot of money, and it needs to get changed.